So this is probably the last morel bed I will be putting in my vegetable garden. Unless, you know, I'm somehow figuring out how to make some more spawn with the liquid culture I have in my fridge. And in this bed, I used 40 bags of import tuna, the last good bags of spawn I have. And every bag I found, no mold in it, so that's good. Everything was clean. Hopefully that translates out to more mushrooms. And the last set was 2 days shy of a month. So it was fully colonized and solid, so, you know, I'm sure I could use it no problem. I tilled this bed up to the fourth notch again because it had a lot of roots in it, like this bed too, so couldn't get as deep as I wanted, but still plenty of soil to work with. Have sandbags filled with bricks on top holding it all down. And I did get my shade cloth in today, so I will be going back and pounding the stakes in to both of these rows, putting the hoops up, and then more shade cloth. And I think it's just a good idea to have that shade cloth on it throughout the entire winter season too, because you can see how already there's leaves and sticks. I'm sure the raccoons and groundhogs will walk on it, so good idea just to have it protected, even with the garden fenced in. So now it's really just a waiting game for all of this. I'm going to start testing my misting system. Probably have just an open row up with the hoops and have a line going down. I have some adapters for my sprinkler solenoid valves and some ideas how to put that all together. So that's what I'll be working on next. I have the hoops up on this last row, and over here I have a coil of this 1/2-inch irrigation main line. You see it's somewhat durable, it's weather resistant, it'll last a long time out in your field. And I've pounded a stake into the ground and thrown a bucket over it, then thrown the spool of hose around the bucket, and that way I can pull it out and it'll spin around, and that way it'll come out straight, all evenly on the one side, because you don't want the hose to be twisted up when you lay it down, because then when you put your misters into it, you may possibly put it up for the season, then lay it out again and not get it in the same orientation that you had it. So yeah, it makes a difference to keep it all the same direction. And two, I think I'm going to, as you can see how it's kind of flattened on one side more than the other, so it's kind of an oval shape. I'll probably punch the hole at the edge of the oil or oval where it's the most stiff, because that'll be the easiest to get the 1/4-inch barb hole in there. Otherwise it'll kind of sink in. You got to really work it. It helps if it's a cold day, because then it'll be easier to get the holes punched through it, because the plastic will be stiff and it won't bend in when you push the punch into it. But on a warm day it's easier to get the fittings in, because then you can get the 1/4-inch barbs popped into the plastic main line, and the main line will stretch appropriately to let the barbs in. Otherwise, if the line's kind of cold out here in the morning, you'll have to fight it. But you know, just leave it out in the sun for an hour and it'll heat up. So I'm gonna get this line up onto the center of these hoops, and although you can see that these hoops aren't symmetrical, most of them kind of have a raised hump on the one side, which, by the way, I kind of decided probably best to have the hump up on the northern side, because the wind blows this way. It'll give a little bit more of a, you know, an aerodynamicness to the row. But still kind of measure out the very center of it, and then attach the line there with some zip ties. And if zip ties don't work, I'll have to use something else that secures it up there a bit more rough, because the zip ties might slip. I've got this irrigation secured up over top of these hoops. Now I've thought about where the placement should be for the misters that pop in. Originally I thought just under each hoop, but maybe, you know, want to get as high up as possible so it has as much spread as possible too. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do initially is put a mister in about a foot to the right of each hoop, and see how that goes. And then if I need to increase the number of misters, I'll add another mister here and there about a foot on the other side of the hoop, so they'll be about evenly spaced down the line. And the space between hoops is about 5 feet roughly. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my punch tools, and I have two different ones. This is a bit more pricey variety where see, it has a good grip to squeeze like that, but the post that punches into the line is kind of blunt, so you may have some difficulty making that work, maybe if you sharpen that or something. And then I have a cheaper variety where you can see it's like a plunger. You pop it in like that, but it has a bit more of a point to it, so it might be better to start the hole off with this than finish it with the other one. So I'm going to go down the row, punch those holes in, and pop some misters into those holes. Looks like this one's doing the job just fine, so I'm going to go ahead and use it since it's a bit faster. You see my 4-way misters. They're that large. The 1/4-inch barb detaches from it, so you can always pop it in and then remove these when you want to wrap your line back up, so all these are not in the way and you don't break them. Make sure that all your caps on these are tight, because I noticed that although they may say that these are adjustable, they are not. So if the caps are loose, all they're going to do is drip, so make sure they're on there tight. You see I'm going to eyeball about a foot out, kind of turn it toward me, make sure I got it squared up, and it pops right through. Kind of wiggle it so it opens the hole just a smidge, and then here it pops right in. You can even turn it now and adjust it a bit. If it's a little cattywampus to the right or left, you usually have a little bit of play in there. If not, you can, you know, twist the length a little bit and use the tension of your cable ties to hold the line in place. But you want to try to get everything as evenly possible, or even as possible. All right, I have all my misters in. I have the water line hooked up to the garden hose from my house. Now the initial pressure is going to be higher because it's built up in the hose, and I do get a lot of pressure because I'm so far from my house and at a downhill grade. I've actually blown a lot of hoses. I usually have to buy these heavy-duty professional farm hoses, like, you know, like the orange ones look like a big earthworm. Those are the only ones that survive. So let's turn this on and let's see what happens. All right, maybe it's building pressure here. Yeah. Now there's a lot of air on the line too. You can hear that getting pushed out. Now here we go, here we go. Now I have these arranged, like I said, in a X pattern on one and a plus pattern on the other. I say that looks really good. See down the way the mist coming off. It looks like it's covering the entirety of the surface. And it looks like I got plenty of pressure. The misters at the top are going just as fine as the ones at the bottom. Usually anything at the end of your drip line irrigation is going to have less pressure, but as you can see, it's fine. Now realize too that any of this mist that's escaping the bounds of the plastic and the row is going to get caught up by the shade cloth and then rain back down onto the row. And you can see water already running down a stream down the center of it. And it probably has only been less than a minute. So I don't think it's going to take much more than a minute of this, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. What I'll do, come spring, is turn it on for a minute or so and then check my sensors to see how long it takes for the humidity to drop and for the soil moistness to drop, and then get a better idea of how frequent I have to do this. But you can already see the soil that was cracked dry to the sides here starting to moisten up too. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. I don't think I'll need to add any more. You can see the X pattern of the one going this way and then a plus pattern. So yeah, all my space is pretty much equally covered. Now, see this one over here though? See how it's dripping really bad? That's because I accidentally double punched the hole right by each, 2 holes next to each other, and can't really goof plug both of those very well, which I might try. But yeah, if you accidentally punch a hole wrong, you can either goof plug it with well, I got them in the bag, but they're just the barb without any hole going in it, and they block the hole up. Or if you really do a bad damage to it, like if you cut it up or whatnot, you can always cut the line and splice in a connector and connect the 2 pieces together. So I think that looks really good. Give you an idea what's going to be happening in the spring. I hope all this mist makes for lots of morels. And the next thing I'm going to work on is some solenoid valve control, so I can turn on these rows of misters. And I'm probably going to turn on 1 row at a time to make sure I have, this amount of water pressure. And then try to get everything fully automated. That'd be great. And also too, I'll be trying to get this liquid culture of import tuna that I have in the fridge. See if I can do something with that still too. So still more to come.